Next, the triangular parsha. What's the triangular parsha? Well, it's the part of Kisetsu which just says rapid fire mitzvahs, right? If we want to go through all the mitzvahs, we wouldn't have enough time. Shatnez and laws of everything else. So one of the central themes there is the converts who can't enter the community. What does entering the community, biat kahal, mean? It means that normally a non-Jewish person converts to Judaism, so he can marry in. His wife could be a full-fledged Jewish woman. And if a woman converts to Judaism, she can marry a Jewish man. It's happened. But the Torah makes 4 exceptions. 4 national groups can't just marry in, even if their people convert to Judaism. Not Canaanites. The 7 Amim of Canaan, Gibeonites and Jebusites and the rest of them can convert. The ones who can't are, Ammon, Moab, Edom, and Egypt. So those are the ones that are closest, by the way, aside from Ishmaelites and Bnei Keturah. Those are the ones who are closest in relation, right? Those are the ones closest in relation. Ishmaelites can convert and Bnei Keturah can convert. They're also obligated, according to the Rambam, they're obligated in circumcision. Very interesting. And, what do you say?
All the ones bordering on our south.
Well, and also to the east. Ammon and Moab are originally to the east, but to the southeast.
On the southern side.
Okay, fine.
Arameans, absolutely.
Yeah. So, why is this? And the Torah actually explains it. First of all, Torah says about Ammon and Moab, they can't marry in ever. If you have a male convert in the male line, he stays in the category of, like, let's say, mamzerim. Other converts in mamzerim, we can't marry into full-fledged miyuchas Jews. So that's because they have a certain characteristic. It says they didn't basically become your allies when you left Egypt. They didn't come in open arms. They decided that they're going to actually feel that you're a threat to them and hire Bilam to somehow try to harm you. Now, throughout the parsha of Balak, by the way, it says Moab had this idea. Balak, leader of Moab, and it says Moab had lost the previous king of Moab lost all that territory to Sichon. And this new king of Moab, Balak, decides to take care of the Jewish threat, the Jewish problem, by aligning himself with the Midianites. Now, Ammon is not mentioned throughout the whole parsha, the whole incident of the Moabites losing their territories to Sichon, and then the Moabites coming up with this plan to somehow harm the Israelites. Ammon's also not mentioned. But here he is. Here the Ammonites are mentioned as being part of this plot. Many read that. That's how you read the pasuk, saying the Ammonites were part of the plot to hire Bilam. That is, Balak at the time was the leader of both Ammon and Moab. And some say no, Ammon and Moab didn't give water and food to the Jewish people. And the Moabites were the ones who also went a little bit farther and hired Bilam, which is kind of strange because the Ammonites can then say we weren't that bad. But the problem is you look in Sefer Shoftim, and it seems that unlike what's in the Torah, it also says the Ammonites lost all their territory to Sichon also. Ammon and Moab Torah b'Sichon. Both Ammon and Moab lost territory to Sichon and Og, by the way.
Yeah.
So, and it was the Ammonites who were then wanting it back. And Yiftach says, "Oh, you think you're better than Balak? Are you any better than Balak, who already tried this shtick?" The implication in Sefer Shoftim and in this pasuk is that all along the Ammonites and Moabites were together in losing their territory to the Amorites, Sichon, and then trying to come up with this plot. Even though they're not explicit in these 2 books of the Bible, they are linked to this incident. And the Midianites, they show up a little bit in this incident of Balak. They're mentioned at the beginning. Vayomer Moav el Ziknei Midian, Atali achachu akahal. And Rashi, even though he brings the medrash saying that the Midianites dropped out of this whole hiring Balak thing early on, they're there at the end. It says, Va'techel Ablis Notel Benot Moav, and then it mentions that Kozbi Batsur is a Midianite among these Benot Moav. And then the punishment is against the Midianites specifically, not Moab for whatever reason, and not against Ammon. Rashi points this out. Rashi says, why weren't they told to avenge themselves on Ammon and Moab? What's Ammon doing here? Because Ammon is included in this whole thing, in this pasuk in Devarim, and in Sefer Shoftim. So even though Ammon doesn't appear anywhere in Sefer Bamidbar having to do with the loss of territory to Sichon and hiring Bilam, which is presumably all happened with Moab, they were included in this. And the Midianites, even though they're not in every pasuk mentioned, they had already aligned themselves with Moab in this part. So it doesn't always have to tell you Moab and Midian. Only occasionally you have to mention this. The point is that that's what these 2 groups did. Ammon and Moab were against us, so they can't ever join the Kehillah. And Egyptians and Edomites also can't for the first two generations, the father and then the son, but the grandson can.
One of them was 4 generations.
Yeah, that's what, but the halacha means the grandson can. Yeah, that's a Rambam Paskins.
How do they count?
Yeah, it's a thing. So you look over here in Sefer Kedusha, 12th paragraph. It says here, for Mitzri and Adomi, Echad Zachar Me'ekon Nekevot, Dor Rishon v'Dor Sheni Asurin Lavo B'Yisrael v'Dor Shlishi Mutter. See?
But how do they count?
So it says, Mitzri Mu Beretchin Gaira B'Nasheni. A Mitzris, she's pregnant. She's herself a convert, so her son will be the second. Mitzri Sheni Shenasa Mitzri Rishona, O Mitzri Rishon Shenasa Mitzri Shnia Avlad Sheni. So Nemar, it always follows. You can't, if this Mitzri has a father who's the first degree and mother second degree, you can't say he's third degree following his mother. He has to follow the father, the more chomer one. So that's how it works. That's the halacha over here. Dor Shlishi. Okay, they can join together. So yeah, it's look it up. The point is that these groups, by the way, the Rambam concludes in saying there's been a mix-up, by the way. Since Assyrian times, we can't really be sure that those people who live in the land of Edom are classical Edomites. They're no longer there. By the way, that includes Amalekites. Amalekites are a subgroup of Edomites, which means the Rambam is saying here, unlike the Duke that people try to make, that the Amalekites are around all the time and wipe them out, whoever it is. The point is that they've already been mixed up. You can't go and declare, oh, these people are Amalekites, so I'm going to destroy them. That's what Rambam says clearly in Mor Nevuchim. You shouldn't make that mistake. Either way, the problem is this is a little bit ahistorical because these national groups are mentioned a few times, Edomites and Ammonites and Moabites, even in times of Yirmiyahu, who is, I don't know, about 70 years after this whole incident, and even in early Second Temple times. The resolution, I believe, is that they were aware of these national groups in early Second Temple times. They still called them Ammonites and Moabites, and they had their own language. But the sages realized that since Assyrian times, there had been already these bilbulim, the mix-ups and assimilation and intermarriage and also forced exiles. So yes, you might be able to assume that there are some Moabites in the land of Moab, but they're certainly not majority anymore. It's enough that there's enough mixing to say that these halachas are no longer binding. So there you go. It's an interesting historical piece that Lamaisa, we don't have anybody today in the Gentile world who converts and we tell him, sorry, you know what? You have to stay marrying in the Mamzer / other Gerim community. We don't do such a thing anymore. Okay, that's the triangle parsha. That's an important halach there.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.